Welcome to Naruto Pre-Shippuden Part 2, where this time we're going to scale more than just one feat. However, it's important to remember what was scaled initially, being base Naruto's Rasengan, so if you haven't seen it, go check Part 1. It's a short video, but if you just want the numbers, we have a confirmed baseline of small building level for total joules, or wall level joules per centimeter cube. Now that that's been re-established, let's address a few things. First, we want to gauge Naruto's strength. And with that, we can start with all the way from him kicking away partially transformed Gaara to holding the small bit of the giant snake's mouth open for a bit. You then have to realize he, in scaling to Sasuke, scales to punches like this as well. But then, how strong are these punches and how close are they to his Rasengan in power at this time? To get an idea, oh, and you know, just for fun, take a little guess, but here's his Rasengan and what it could do. Again, you can see in the first video as well. What would a Naruto punch do instead, right? How much stronger is his Rasengan? Okay. So, what we are trying to find again is how strong are his punches and how close they are to his Rasengan. Now, to get an idea, take a look at how snakes tend to grow in size proportionate to their weight. And consider Naruto's snake feet here. Now, based on the size, we can expect an approximation in total weight of this monstrous snake to be around 344.4 tons. And for Naruto to have lifted around, well, not that much actually. Really only several hundred pounds. Not to downplay it, as that's still impressive for what it is actually, for what it actually is, but this isn't bite force, right? It's not Naruto, he's not holding off any more than that small section of the mouth open, nor is it for any good deal of time. But if you take it for what it is, several hundred pounds of weight, this early isn't bad. It is Naruto in base. What's more though, is that we can then compare this to something like Sasuke's basic punches and get an idea of striking force. Just looking at this, while yes, gravity played a role, the degree to which the rock was being destroyed wasn't from that. And we're looking at a punch of around low-end wall level in total joules. This would explain why Naruto wasn't injured in the slightest. However, as well as why later a near full power Sasuke wasn't injured by a one-tailed Naruto punch. The physicals. Well, what we're looking at is a ratio of approximately a 1 to 1,827 for his strikes to his Rasengan, aka slightly less than a 1,827 times increase in potency from his basic strikes to that Rasengan. Again, look at what his Rasengan did. And what would his basic punch do in comparison? This is before ants, of course. I'm comparing bases to base, one-tails to one-tails when I think of all this. But that increase seems to actually follow pretty concretely. But I will be scaling this whole series. We'll see how well it holds up. But for now, this is what we have to work with. So yes, again, really consider what you think Naruto's punches could really do compared to the Rasengan feat. And it's not just that feat too. Look at what it did versus Kabuto, right? So this, and compared to his actual normal punches again. So this increase is based directly on his punches joules per centimeter cubed to his Rasengan's joules per centimeter cubed. But here's where I can now finally talk about his amps. His zero tails and his one-tailed versions. Well, not to make it any longer than it needs to be, here's what to be expected. If we know that the Cursed Mark Stage 2 is supposed to be that 10 times multiplier, what we need to know is, do the following feats align with that? Let's look. In Zero Tails, he can full stop a giant snake. Now, to be fair, this snake is far smaller than the other one, but is still extremely impressive. Is it 10 times impressive though? It absolutely is. This would be a feat that would dictate a 10 times increase just for Zero Tail. Okay, next, how about simply understanding that Sasuke's Fireball Jutsu is absolutely more potent than his own basic punches, though not by 10 times or even close, mind you, when you actually calculate like the joules down to the centimeter cube. However, it's Zero Tail stopping that with chakra alone that's impressive. The only problem though is that Naruto, the series, almost never uses chakra like this, in overpowering something with chakra alone beyond this point, right? This makes this a bit tricky, but what we can know is that it's weaker than a simple punch from Naruto in the same state, still capable of completely canceling that Fireball Jutsu. Ultimately though, there's no way to justify a 10 times increase. And this leaves us with two feats suggesting both a 10 times increase and a not 10 times increase for Zero Tails. So let's look a little bit more. Let's look at One Tail Naruto attacking Sasuke physically. One Tail being, of course, a good bit stronger than Zero Tails, right? Physically attacking Sasuke, who has 0 curse mark going right now. Now, given all these amps and how they're supposed to play it out, you can see Sasuke gets hit. And take this into consideration. If this is a 10 times increase, you have to assume that this is hitting with the force of around wall level total joules then, based on his basic punches and what it would scale to here. Well, okay, then that actually makes sense that Sasuke would be blown back but largely uninjured. Because if you want to say that his physical strikes are scaling anywhere close to his Rasengan, then you have to somehow, someway explain how 0 curse mark Sasuke is tanking that Rasengan level force. He doesn't. We can use that ratio to get an idea on how much force his physical strike would be in One Tails. And wall level seems about right, doesn't it? This math actually holds up pretty well. He's getting knocked back, but largely uninjured. Nice, okay. And going forward, we can then see, like, throughout the fight, they pummel each other, but it would seem it would require a technique many folds higher than their physical strikes to put the other down, right? That seems to be the case in the pacing with the fight. If we want to say it's a 10 times increase, we should expect the Rasengan then to be 10 times more potent as well, right? And this is One Tails we're talking about, not even 0. So crossing the threshold into actual building level total joules instead of small building, which is what we calculated before. Well, let's look. We have a huge clash. The power swells up, the waterfall is coming down, water is moving, but ultimately, there's very, very little, almost no damage done. No fault to the feat, it's just how it was drawn out. With the waterfall there, I suppose the depth of the water, what have you, it was in between the two actual statues. I wish it could have hit one of the statues or something, but there's just almost no damage to Calc. So we later know that they're, knocked back, but we have nothing to show for even close to building level force. In total joules, mind you, again. But destruction-wise, yeah, there's just nothing that would denote that. And just, dang it! How I wish, they allowed it to actually hit something that it was easily calculable. So, with that, that's all we really have. What would this mean for AP then? Well, this is something I'll be going into a bit more later, so I'm okay with just addressing it, almost teasing it a bit here. But what this tells me is we should stop using Curse Mark Stage 2 as a literal, direct 10 times amp to AP. That the increase can be up to 10 times, that's fine, but across stats, and is shown as such between the members who use it. This also would stand true for Sasuke as well, as One Tail's scaling to it. In the next vid where I'll cover the speed aspect, this will become even more apparent. And besides the Zero Tail feat of stopping that giant snake, it would seem the Curse Mark Stage 2 for Sasuke is more of around because of scaling to each other, more of around a 6 times increase in overall potency, being at least higher than half that 10 times increase that we were really looking for. I can show you later as well with the other, the Sound Ninjas, with their curse marks, that there's nothing denoting that they're all like Jorobu with a 10 times increase just to pure strength, and that even that goes towards AP necessarily. So with that, that'll kind of wrap up the AP. Hopefully you can, I'll put up on the screen some of the major points here, and that would come down to, of course, the difference of a basic strike, just a basic, no amp, no anything, just basic strike versus what you would expect from a high tier, technique, aka basic punch versus Rasengan. And the difference of what their amps and how they scale to each other from like 0 tails, 1 tails, and additionally I would like to lastly add that when it comes to 0 tails and 1 tails, this becomes so much more apparent later, so this again will be slightly a bit of another tease. But when I'm talking about a multiplier, I am talking about a multiplier to Naruto as a base current. A base of where he is now. It's a multiplier in that regard. It is additive when we go forward. It is the Nine Tails chakra amping him by the Nine Tails chakra, not as a multiplier to Naruto's chakra or Naruto's power. He's simply adding his own power. So if Naruto is a 10 right now, he's adding, if the Nine Tails is adding, he's giving him that 10 times increase or something. Again, 10 just being an easy number. And Naruto's a 10,
then he's a 100. But if he gets that same boost later and he's already a 100, then he'd be more like a 190.
Is what I'm saying. It's not, he wouldn't be instantly a 1000 just from getting a 1 tails amp, okay? He's not going to go up by that 10 times. It's definitely additive, but I'll be able to show that better later. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Next video I'll be covering speed. I'll also be hitting a few other feats I didn't have enough time to fit into this one. I'll show you like Lee and how some of his calcs go towards actual striking force compared to what we've seen here. Again with like small building expectations and everything like that. Yeah, you'll be able to really get an idea of how it all kind of compacts together. So look forward to that. That'll probably be, part 3 will really kind of confine almost everything with pre-shippuden, where you can kind of get an idea of where they stand, why the math works out, and get an idea on how strong pre-shippuden really gets to. So, with that said, time to stop talking in circles. If you like the video, like, comment, subscribe. Comments help with the algorithm and everything. Please subscribe for more content. I'm always trying to pump out new ones. I'm finally back. Yes, I am. So with that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Ciao!
Pastor.